Okay, guys, so we'll talk about the in operator today and ASCII characters or character coding in Python, and how do you compare strings in Python. So let's talk about the in operator. So let's say you have a string, right? And the string is vowels and it's A, I, O, U. So if you want to check whether a particular character appears in that string, you can use the in operator, right? So they're very useful for that. And this operation would return a boolean, so you either get a true or a false. So A is in vowels, so you get a true. X is not in vowels, so you get a false. And you can also check if a set of characters together appear in the string. So E, I, O appear in the string vowels, so you get a true. But if you try A, I, U, it's gonna return a false, because Python is gonna see if all these characters appear the way you have entered the characters over here. So A, I, U, it's going to check if this whole thing appears in the string or not. So it's going to return a false, because although the characters appear separately, but they don't appear together in the string. So and so since you get a true or a false from this, you can put this in an if statement also. So if this thing is true, you get the if block is going to be executed, and since in this case it is true, you get the output as this, right? So so let's talk about the ASCII characters now. Computers store characters as numbers, right? So there is a coding for characters, and this is not a complete set of coding. There's more to this, but for our purpose, we are mostly interested in obviously so this is the code and this is the character. So the code for uppercase A is 65 and uppercase Z, right? So 65 to 90 are uppercase letters, and 97 to 122 we have lowercase letters, right? And you can see these are the characters, all the characters, right, for punctuation, right? And these are punctuation and comparison, right? So yeah, like this is useful. These codings are very useful when you're writing programs, right? As we'll see, one of the questions in the worksheet, you would need you can, for example, obviously you can now, let's see, since there is a range over here, for example, you can run a for loop, right, and print all these numbers out, all these characters out. And so there is a function in Python with which you can go from the code to the character, right, or the other way around. So so let's look at that function. So if you use the CHR function, right, or the character function, you can get the character for that particular code, right? And the ORD function is going to give you the code for that particular character that you enter in the parentheses. So so for example, like if you want to get the degree character, right, the code for that is 176, and so you can type that in a print statement using the CHR function. And so this is just a simple example on how the CHR function can be useful. And you can also, so we've seen that the code for the lowercase letter A is 97 and uppercase is 65, right? So you can also compare. So now this is something we saw in some of the previous classes, and I mentioned that we'll talk about this later. So this is how Python compares characters. So you can use the comparison operators now with characters also. And so so this is why lowercase is greater than uppercase, right? Because the lowercase letters character code is 97, and the uppercase is 65. And so let's look at how are strings compared in Python. So these are some steps that I wrote down. We'll see examples on the next slide, and this will make more sense. So what you do is you start at the index 0, right? And let's say you're comparing two strings and you start at index 0. And then Python is going to compare each character one by one. So if the two characters are not equal, let's say again you start at index 0, they're not equal, then Python is going to use the character coding to return the result of the comparison. And if the strings if they're equal to each other, if the two characters are equal to each other, Python is going to go to the next character and check if it's equal or not. If both the strings are equal to each other up to some point, right? But one is shorter than the other, like in this case, Python is gonna check which one is the longer string, right? And the longer string is always greater than the shorter one. So so in this case, for example, you get true because ABC is greater than AB. So this is when Python compares one by one, and at a certain point they're equal to each other. So Python is going to check if one is longer than the other and return the result accordingly. So let's look at examples. So let's say that, so in this case, Python is going to compare this with that, right? So in the first case, they're not equal to each other. So Python is going to return true because A is less than C, right? Now, in this case, A is equal to A, and then B is the same as B. So now Python returns the result of C, the comparison of C with D, so which is true because C is less than D. And in this case, this is the last point. So if they're equal to each other at a certain point, and then Python is just going to return true for this because ABC is a shorter string compared to ABCD. And this just returns true because empty string is length 0. Okay. Now, let's talk more about string formatting. We've talked about the format method, right? And we've talked about how when you have these empty curly braces, right, Python is gonna replace whatever appears in the format, in the parentheses of the format statement, right? So 5 is going to be placed over here, and then the argument, which is a string, is going to be replaced over here. So this is what you get. So that 5 is over here, and then the argument, the string, is placed in the other empty curly braces. But we can do more in formatting. So let's look at this. This is where you want to basically give particular spaces to your string or integer, right? So this 10, right? So let's look at each of these. So this greater than sign, right? So this is what the terminology is, that when you have a less than sign, this means that it's going to be left justified. If you have a greater than sign, that means it's right justified, right? And then this caret sign means that it's center justified, so it's in the center. So this is right justified. This is going to be left justified, right? So let's go step by step. This is going to be right justified, right, because of the greater than sign. This means that it has 10 spaces, and this means that it's a string, right? And this again means that this is going to be left justified, 10 spaces, and it's an integer, right? So Python is going to place this guy over here, Bill over here, with this format, and then 25 over here, and so you see this as the output. So let's look at how this looks in the terminal. So if you have no formatting, right? No formatting, no justification, for example. It's just gonna place bill in the first curly braces and then 25 in the other one. But if you have all these details on how to format the string or the integer, you can see that now bill is right justified, and then 25 is left justified. So this is particularly useful when you want to print out a table, right? And justify your number to the left or right or center. Okay, so when you work on the worksheet, right, there's a useful package that you can import. So that's called a string, right? And within that package, you have all these characters stored, so you can use these, right? And for the worksheet, you might want to use the string.punctuation set of characters. You have digits also, all the lowercase and all the white spaces over here. Okay, so this is a useful package that you may want to import whenever, especially you're dealing with strings. One last thing for today is the enumerate iterator. So for this case, so for example, if you have a string, right, forest equals Amazon, so that's a string. So what you can do is you can what enumerate does, it returns the index of the string also, and so you can, if you use a for loop, right, with with two indices, right, and then use the enumerate function over here, right, with the string in the parentheses, and you can print out the index and the letter, right. So we're not going to use this a lot, but you know, it might be useful in some cases where you're interested in printing out the indices of the characters of a string. So we know that, you know, how the string indexing work. A is 0, M is 1, and so on, right? So the enumerate iterator prints out the index and the letter also, and so you can print out a list, right, also of tuples with each with each character and its index. And just one more thing, you guys were getting confused on some of you again forgot the print. So when I show these these codes on my slides, and in most of the cases you see these three again signs over here, these greater than signs. These means that I'm using the console, right? So make sure that when you type in this in the script, you use the print statement. We've talked about this so many times. So don't forget that, please. And so the worksheet is on Python. The worksheet is on Canvas. Go ahead. And I'm gonna let you guys upload a doc file also, or a Word file, because some of you are having trouble with saving it. It's easy in Windows. You can look it up. It's easy to save a file or create a file, a .py file. But if you don't know how to do it, you can upload the Word file. And if you are having trouble with PyCharm on your computer, you can use Thonny or the links I gave you guys online to write your code for the worksheet. The exam is going to be on HackerRank, so if just be comfortable with whatever environment and stay consistent with that, so that you don't get into trouble when you're taking the exam. Okay.